Thank you. Okay, welcome everybody to our FHIR Work Group meeting. We will just have a quick look and approve of the meeting minutes from last meeting. I'll just reload that. Have you updated? Was that, yeah, the deferred item, Danielle, from? Okay.
Oh no, I was updating something else. But
That's right.
yeah, and that's the minutes not from last meeting, but the one before that. We had to. So the approval of
okay, the
the
12th, sorry.
minutes from
Yep.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. I keep getting an error coming up. Maybe it's because I'm not logged in. Maybe I'll just. No. Okay. Do we have a proposer for the minutes approval, please?
Yeah, I wrote them. So yes, I believe they're
Thanks,
done.
Brett.
That's for the 12th. Yeah, that's for the 12th. Yeah.
Yeah. Look very extensive. Slides. Do I have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second it, Michael Osborne.
Thanks, Michael. Do we have a scribe today? Sorry, did I?
That's a good question.
Oh yeah, Brown.
I'm doing it. Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Okay. All right, number 2 on the agenda, we have updates. Brett or Danielle?
Hang on. We just had a seconder. I don't think we voted though.
Oh, sorry. We did. Sorry. We had a seconder, Michael. Thank you. And do I have anyone that wants to abstain? Vote against? Nope. So all 4. How many do we have?
I think that makes it 11.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the minutes from the 12th of the 2nd are approved. Thank you. Okay, so now on to updates. Brett or Danielle?
Yeah, there's quite a few updates actually, and some of it from actions. You scroll down, so we'll get to actions next, but we'll just do a few updates first. So, since our last meeting, everyone should have received the invite to the hybrid FHIR Work Group meeting, which will be next week. So if you're on the call and you haven't received that, you don't have one in your calendar for the 18th, just message me, email me, and I'll forward that to you. It's for Teams reminder, and it's at a different time. I think we're starting at. That's a good question. Let me go look at my calendar.
So the 9 o'clock one?
Yeah, it is. So it's 9 a.m. and it's a Tuesday. No, it's 8 a.m. for me. If I was in Brisbane, it'd be 8 a.m. And for Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra folks, that's 9. And it goes for an hour and 10 minutes because of symposium timings. So we're matching throughout the day, their morning teas, etc. So just reminder there, that's different to normal. It's on a Tuesday next week. I hope to see you in person, but if not, fingers crossed the Microsoft Teams links works. Other updates are the other Connectathon snapshots are out and published. They've been announced. And except for e-requesting. E-requesting is well on its way and it should be published, I think, very soon, which is awesome. Are there any other updates, Brett, that aren't related to the actions?
Well,
Not that I can think of.
All right. Well, let's go
we're
through the
good, yeah.
actions then. For the Marika can't join us today, so the actions relating to Marika need to be postponed for the next meeting. And for mine, the post on Zulip saying, hey, we're going to talk about the next release of AU Base, and we're going to do that on the April 9th meeting, just got posted on Zulip prior to this meeting. Thanks, Brett. So that action's done. The other one on me was about the AU CDI editors contacting them and asking about where ethnicity is. I've emailed them. I don't have a response yet, so I'll report back on that one also in the next meeting. I think, and they're the only two that were me. So I'll hand over to Michael.
Thanks. Yes, so Ruben and I put our heads together. We came up with a JIRA ticket for SPCU extension to be added to AU-based service request. So I guess we can discuss that at a future meeting. We'll probably just put that on the agenda for another meeting. My other action there was a coverage type code for jurisdictional public hospital funding. There's a note. Oh, there's a comment at the bottom of the last minutes where I went through a use case for that. I've had a look in the ACT code code system, and there's nothing.
On the link on the right for that action, it links to the comment that, yeah, there we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's cool. I had to think about this morning. I'm not recommending we use the actual code ABF because ABF's a method of funding, and the government might change that at some other point in time. So, but if they're still funding public hospitals, then we need something a bit method neutral. So the other issue we've got is that PubPol is kind of like a parent concept to a whole bunch of public hospital type billing, not public hospital, public billing. Did you want me to share my screen, or this is just an update, so I don't know if we really want to get into the detail of this, but essentially I'm proposing we have a public hospital funding code under the PubPol. But then I guess that makes it a subtype of Medicare, doesn't it? So it's kind of a tricky situation because we've used PubPol as our Medicare billing code, and really public hospital billing is not a subtype of Medicare. So I don't know. There's probably still some thinking to be done on this one.
Well, I think I think that kind of confirms the direction that we sort of briefly chatted about in the last meeting, that I guess taking the analysis that you've done up to suggest changes to the international terminology is probably going to be the best and cleanest way to approach any kind of splitting of the concept or definition of parent-child. And I think that kind of confirms that we need to look at that approach.
Yeah, definitely. And I do attend the meetings where we discuss the terminology JIRAs on the Friday mornings. So I shall bring that up there and we'll have a chat to some of the terminology folk on that one. I think that also includes Ruben. So hopefully be able to get him in the discussion. He's not on this call today though.
Okay, so should we note in the minutes that when is the next call? Is that something that we do that we can talk about in the next FHIR Work Group, or should it be the one after that?
Yeah, I don't have it in my calendar, so I must have stopped. I must have stopped putting that in my calendar, so I'll have to have a look. So I'll have to come back to you on that one.
All right, we'll just add it to the agenda.
Action.
Yeah, the following agenda. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thanks,
cool.
Michael.
No worries. I think that's all that I had.
Let's pull the lock. Yep. Okay. All right, so the 2 Marika ones are postponed. Brett.
Yeah, you can see there's
Oh,
ones
yeah,
that are done
Yep.
there. Yeah, that to-do one at the end for me is a coverage poll to extend the question about coverage element usage. That will come out before the connectathon. And yeah, and I might ping people in the room as well to see if they'll help discuss that further. So that's not done as yet, but it will come out in the near future.
Okay, thanks, Brett. Okay, so that's all of the actions from last meeting. Okay, operational processes, technical project release. Who's
That's
doing this one? Do
me.
you want me
That's
to
me.
open that up, Brett?
Or I can present if you like. That might be
Whatever.
just as easy. Let me
Sure. I'll stop.
do that. Shit. Great. You can see some slides.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. So this was just again following up on just some process background, and with some of the activities today, this is kind of relevant to that. So yeah, just to help flesh out some of the governance processes. Just spend 10 minutes going through technical project releases and what that means. There's you will remember some time ago we approved some projects that were technical in nature, the test data project and Inferno core testing framework. They're examples of technical projects that don't have FHIR IGs or balloting attached to them. So to help assist kind of managing the governance of those, we have these technical project processes and publications at the end of the day, which is the effective kind of release point for these projects, and how we complete a cycle for the project. So yeah, so just going through some of that material. So you'll remember we did a project scope statement which included projects that we wanted to release, technical projects. The development work has been going on. There's been we're going to hear about some of that today. So that's just the project proceeding as per the plan. And at some point there's going to be a release of that project. So there's official release points. So there's some release steps there that need to be met to release the project formally. And today we're going to hear some project report back, which is one of the things that needs to be done to report back to the governing committee, to say what has happened with this project and where we ended up. Yeah. So yeah, we have formalized this to try and have some process descriptions. This is published on the HL7 Australia space in the governance section. So just to reference that, there's kind of the ending of the cycle there. There's a release preparation step. There's release steps to complete, and basically scheduling a report back. That report back for the projects we're talking about today has been done, and we're going to hear some today. So this has sort of been there, and we're at the point now of having the FHIR Work Group report back as the release report back going to happen. So those things are just steps that have been taken on the way up to making the release. Yeah, we're kind of working on that material and fleshing out the detail of what's needed. So yeah, if you do wish to, it's in the governance section of HL7 Australia. But if you are running one of these projects, you'll have been looking at that to see what needs to be done. Yep, and I've put the wrong diagram in, so let's not worry about that one. Oh, I'm going backwards, that's why. Okay, yep. So after the report back's sort of been approved and well, reviewed at least, the project's kind of met its requirements for being released, and then essentially the rest is technical arrangements with HL7 Australia with any requirements in publishing, and then announcements will get made and so forth. So it's essentially, this is the HL7 Australia side of confirming how the release will happen, where to publish it, and how that will be announced to the community as well. So these things don't really involve committee activity, but are kind of arranged between the technical with technical requirements in terms of how things need to be published and hosted, and how that will happen with the HL7 Australia infrastructure. So yeah, depending on the project, this kind of release part can be very different depending on what kind of project it is and how the artifacts are actually published. Yeah, so there is actually a submission for that. I probably won't get too much into that, but it basically boils down to ensuring that some of the FHIR community process requirements are met for the technical project. So things like versioning, a demonstration of community engagement, and methods of collecting issues for the project defined and things like that. Since these are not FHIR IGs, that can be a bit varied in terms of how that's done. So it just needs the documentation to be present to explain that. And they're kind of checks that are done on release to make sure the project is kind of suitable for consumption for others, and the project's met its kind of requirements in terms of quality in that space, and that's aligned with some of the FHIR community process kind of methodologies, and but kind of handled more for technical projects as well. So if these are not FHIR specs, so some of the things don't apply. Yeah, it's a more general set of requirements to be met. And then there is a technical role at HL7 Australia publication manager. They're the ones that have to look after actually making sure these are released and announced to the community, and essentially become part of the HL7 Australia content that is made available. Cool. That's all I really wanted to say, so I think that probably covers off the overview. Were there any kind of questions on this? We'll actually see some of this very shortly with some of these feedback reports, and you can sort of see some of the stuff that is relevant with those, and we should be able to hopefully be well informed at the end of the presentations.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brett. Okay, so no, sorry.
No, that's all good. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so next item on the agenda is our report back for our AU Core Inferno test framework. Who's doing this one, and is there something to present, or have you got
So
something?
I'm picking
Josh?
up both of those. I will.
Right.
We've had a
Thanks,
couple
Josh.
of illnesses. I've just got to open those up, and then I'll present those on screen. Right. So first up this morning, let me know if everybody can see my screen. Let's come up.
Not yet. Black screen.
Can now.
Okay. Yep.
Okay, there we go. Just took a while for it to come through. So the first up one this morning, we've got the AU Core Inferno testing framework. This will be the first release of this. And as Brett mentioned, this goes through the technical project release report back. Brief description, which is covered in the project proposal, which if you're attending a couple of FHIR working groups ago, we also did a previous one of these that we presented for patient summary. This follows along the same lines. This just covers off what we presented in that initial one. So essentially the Inferno is a set of tools designed to test the AU core implementation guide, and it consists of a generator and test kit files that we publish. It allows a UI that we provide in the server URL, which is inferno.hl7.au, which I've linked through and later on the slide packs as well. And from there, you can choose the test kit and generate your tests from there. We've also got the project scope. So the project scope, as Brett mentioned, comes after the PP, and that defines the release criteria and what we're working towards to establish. And so in this case, we were developing a test cases aligned with HL7 AU IGs and the deployable version of that to be used by FHIR-based developers. The artifacts maintained in this case are the Inferno test cases and some configuration files for the Inferno cloud deployment, which is infrastructure as code, which falls under the AU Inferno repository. And we have a link to that project proposal there as well. The development timeline, we started this back in January 24, and this details out our initial build and releases as we went through testing phases and connectathons, and a small summary of what each change was as we incrementally went through those processes with the community at some of the connectathons and test events. It's just another continuation, so it continues through till the December connectathon that we held with HL7 AU late December, and then through the January when AU Core R1 was published, and there were some updates that came out of that publication that flowed onto the test kits and were updated. We've released a couple of bug requests and updates from the GitHub repos. So we take the feedback through the GitHub tags and releases and comments, and we do that through the FHIR working group calls as well. And then on to March, where we are currently to do the proposed release of the R1 of Inferno. So what is covered and what is in the Inferno test framework? We essentially have the test generator and the Inferno test kit, which deploys gems into the HL7 AU Inferno website. And underneath that, you will have the rolling code, which deploys that website with all the headers and the links out to the individual test kits to be launched underneath that. So that is the framework, and infrastructure as code is the HL7 AU Inferno, and then the test kit being the HL7 AU core kit that lives within that. This is an example of the Inferno platform, essentially loading into the AU core test. You can start a new session or a new test, and then you can run through the test kit and the individual tests contained within. And that will generate you can generate a test report out of the back end of that, which plays through your validator as well. So the current project maturity, as you can see, we did walk through that timeline, but essentially we have individualized test kits that were lined up with the AU core releases, which were ballot preview, and then the actual release of AU core R1. And so these have an automation process whereby once one of the IGs are published, it will update the test suites to align with the IG that has been published, and will auto create a publication of the associated test kit. At this stage, we're ready to go for the first R1 release, which sits alongside AU Core R1. And at this stage, users can run the following tests. We've got basic search, change search, multiple or, multiple and, comparators for date and time, reading and validation with the specific validation, resource validation, included resource validation, and the MS validation and missing and suppressed data validations. And there is a slight context of do some conformance testing, but this is not a strategic conformance testing tool. So this covers most of the release R1. We do have the GitHub repositories. So AU Core test kit publishes into the AU FHIR Inferno kit, which is the infrastructure as a code, and is launched as a test kit out of the base AU infrastructure code. So they are dependent. And so each time a new test kit, in this case AU Core Inferno, is published, it creates a gem which publishes into the AU FHIR Inferno infrastructure code and will be updated in that for launching in that. The repositories are maintained in the open source HL7 GitHub repositories. There is the AU FHIR Core Inferno and all the associated documentation, the licensing, the Apache 2.0 licensing rather than Creative Commons, which is inherited from the International Inferno publication as a fork. And that's all contained within the README and the licensing files in the GitHub repos and the packaging as well. In terms of community contribution, we held 5 HL7 AU Connectathons up to this point for the releases, and we've taken feedback from all of the participants, and we held 3 Spark testing events, and again, the same feedback came from those. Currently, we've had 17 organizations testing using the AU FHIR kit, and they've submitted their results, and that's documented on the HL7 AU Confluence pages. We've had an online demonstration with Canada Health Infoway as well, and we've had the currently 5 fortnightly tooling and infrastructure calls where we take feedback, raise issues, and discuss this. And these can be raised directly through the GitHub issues register. What's on next for the future? Essentially, we will, after publication, we may include write-back tests, obligation tests, and reporting via test report resources, and also enhance the feature to run tests via CLI, which is a new inclusion into the International Inferno core. And so we may bring that down into the version. And as well as that, we will publish any new AU Core IG features as the maturity level for AU Core increases. That will be coming back through the same process that Brett mentioned earlier, where for post this release, we will be doing a PSS, a project scope statement for R2. That covers anything here. More than happy to go back through the slides or cover any questions.
Thanks, Josh. It was very informative. Do we have any questions from anybody? Nope. Okay. Next.
Cool. And again, if anybody does want to review those slide packs, they will be available as part of the minutes once they're published.
They're already on the minute.
That's true.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Josh. Okay. So next on the agenda we have.
I'm sure the next one is Josh again.
It is me.
For the test data.
This
actually, yes.
Me.
So
yes, the test data project. So again, we've had a couple of analysts, so you get to listen to my wonderful monotone for another 10 minutes. And I'll bring that up on screen now.
Thanks, Josh.
So let me know once that comes up on the screens.
Yep, we can look at
Yes.
that.
Cool. Right, so this, very much in a similar vein, follows the same release process that we just covered off in rather detail. However, this one covers the test data project R1. Now, the agenda for this specific slide packs is just demonstrated here, but it follows the same same proposal and flow as the previous document, so I won't sit on the slide pack too long. The purpose of this project was to provide some sample FHIR instances for the testing purposes and to support implementers. The repository essentially includes synthetic, realistic, but not real in any form, of data sets that conforms to the FHIR IGs. In this case, the data repository is agnostic and wider than any specific IG, so it may contain artifacts and things that test multiple IGs. And essentially, these can be fed and worked through with the AU and test kits that we mentioned in the prior section. So essentially, the project statement covers a lot of what I've just covered there. The initial phase was to run through with AU core, and a lot of the data there is now particularly AU core focused, given that most of the connectathons and R1 releases covered that. There are several participating clinical systems, and their sample data chose to follow the FHIR R4 standard and support the current IGs in the scope of R1 for AU core, with a set of high vendor test data services as well. The repositories for these, essentially these is maintained again in the HL7 AU GitHub repositories, and release 1 will be published under the releases folder. The documentation again follows the same processes. We have the documentation maintained in the repo with the licensing under Creative Commons, and the README files and the intent of those is stipulated there as well. One of the key things that we're trying to drive with this is contribution. So there is abilities to contribute through the repos themselves for anybody who does wish to get involved in those, and also drive that through some of the feedback and sessions through the infrastructure and tooling community calls that we host. So we would encourage anybody who wants to get involved in that through that process. Licensing, as I've already mentioned, is covered in the license file, but is covered under a Creative Commons license. Release 1 essentially includes synthetic data generated direct FHIR test resources and some e-requesting. So there are, as mentioned, this is not specifically limited to a specific IG. These test the resources and can be used agnostic of the IGs, but this is particularly AU core R1 most data, but there is some e-requesting artifacts in there as well. These are some of the outcomes we had for the test data. So by the virtue of the fact that we had to do the test data for AU core R1, we also provide some coverage of AU-based resources and some of the e-requesting resources. We currently cover 100% of the AU core R1 data sets, but these are the coverages across those. So some of the R1 outcomes, features, and changes. We've had the inclusion of the high vendor test data to provided by Services Australia and enriched with the additional elements to support active IG projects, such as the patients, providers, and provider organizations, and the inclusion of this data to support covering other resources such as allergy intolerance coverage, immunization, etc. These are a continuation of these. We've also had inclusion of IHIs, Medicare DVA numbers, and provide numbers ABNs where these would be realistic, and PBS involvements in there as well. Again, all of these are randomly generated names, but we do validate Australian addresses that are based on publicly available data from Australia Post and not specifically tied to anything. So again, this covers a lot of the Services Australia data. There's a lot to cover through these, but again, all of the slide packs are available to anybody who wants to go through them. And then we get onto the scope mission statement. So essentially, we fulfill the project statement by providing the synthetic FHIR instances that extend beyond the IG examples, involving iteratively alongside these HL7 AU IGs. And they serve as a reference for deployment and support the testing capability. And again, these can be utilized, these data test sets can be utilized with the AU Inferno test kits. Then again, this goes through the summary of that high vendor test data, the full coverage and partial coverage of the AU base and e-requesting. And this is generally utilized as a support for the connectathons and test activities and enhancing community adoption and implementation for testing. And we do that in an open source and collaborative environment. It's all hosted in GitHub. We have the community calls, and we welcome any feedback or engagement in those. So I've already covered a lot of this about essentially the meetings and the connectathons and testing events. And the current project status, we've got the first initial draft release. And we have the utilities related to the tooling separated into their specific links and references within those GitHub repositories. And we've implemented fix enhancements based on the issues both raised in the community call and raised on the GitHub issues registers and tickets. And we've gone through the test data coverage and of all the must support elements in the profiles and IGs are currently reported through the test data coverage report that comes out of that. The intents and plans is to continue expanding the synthetic data sets. And again, this will follow a similar process to what I mentioned before, expanding with each IG that we're currently developing, and continuous improvement through development of feedback, as well as iterations through that. And after this, we will be going through a R2 scoping and planning stage that will then come back to the FHIR Working Group as an R2 PSS for the same repo. Currently, the resourcing for this is currently resourced through Spark with collaboration with HL7 AU, GitHub, and the open source HL7 AU administration and moderation. The QA process is currently done through the community test events, feedback, as well as the HL7 AU connectathons, and all pull requests are reviewed, validated, and the source data transformations are reviewed and validated with each run. And we do run through those test kits after we've had each one of those feedbacks on board. Not sure why those fell in there. So
there's a whole bunch of hidden backend slides that you're now seeing that have obviously been kept in the presentation, I'm pretty sure. So we might need to clean up the PDF version of this presentation.
Yeah, I'm not sure why those ended up in there. That's essentially where it finishes up. So I'm happy to take any questions on that one, and I'll update and embed the new updated PDF into the minutes post this call.
So Josh, These have been pretty popular projects with the vendors, yeah, because they've certainly been
They have been,
used
yes.
a lot already. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, we've had a lot of feedback. The vendors, I know, the Connectathon, everybody's generally very enthusiastic about having the data sets. These data sets are also the same data sets that have been utilized at the Connectathon for the HL7 AU reference servers that allow people to interact and demonstrate the in-flight IGs and the published IGs at each Connectathon as well.
And I guess the future work is really like, as we have more IGs, how would the world be if all these were in action at once? And, you know, how does the test data look around those things as well? Because
Yep, so
it gets more complicated and
it
more
certainly does,
sophisticated.
and that'll be a consideration that we bring to the table as part of R2.
Lovely.
Okay, thank you, Josh. Okay, next on our agenda, we have 5 breakout sessions, suggestions for the Connectathon. This is just an open question.
Yeah, I have. We did mention this a couple of meetings ago. I'm keen to do a provenance session. I have talked to Emma at HL7 and have a slot for that. I do have a premise for the discussion. So yeah, I think that would be one would like to go ahead.
Hey Brett, can I ask you to include in that provenance discussion ML and AI as caption provenance?
Say it again.
In looking at provenance, whether we can have a discussion around how machine learning can be captured in provenance, because it's becoming an issue.
Yeah, good one. Yep. Nice.
Is it worth mentioning the breakouts that are already scheduled?
Yeah, that's tentative. Yeah, tentative timings are already up on the
Are they on the track page? On the trends
agenda.
Tasman page. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I was trying to work out timings yesterday. So AU Core requested a couple of slots there, so that's all teed up, and there were some other slots there. E-requesting had a couple of sessions requested as well. And yeah, so I guess it's just if there's any other things to bring. We did talk about pre-authorization, but I think
wow, it's jam-packed, isn't it?
There wasn't. Yeah, it is jam-packed. So there's really only probably 1 or 2 more slots, if any.
I'll just drop the link in the chat. The agendas for the day, or the 2 days, is on that page.
Yeah, so we go down to the day 2, day 3. Down lower. There's like timings.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's like that agenda page. There you go. So that's the symposium day. So if we could go down to the Connectathons. There you go, day 2. So that's the first day there. So there's e-requesting and patient summary and healthcare service for AU Core on the first day as breakouts. And on the second day, we have terminology for the e-requesting group radiology terminology session. Patient summary exchange, which is another patient summary topic, and provenance there as well. So really, I've got, how many slots have I got? I've got 2 slots. We've got that last slot of the day. Actually, that's a report out slot. We probably won't use that because everyone should probably be at the report out. So they're probably
I don't think we'd be allowed to. So
yeah, everyone will be leaving anyway. So we've got Q2 on the first day. It's probably so I'm looking at the infrastructure people if they do want to run a session. I think Marika's not going to make it for the pre-auth discussion.
No, she's not.
So
Marika can't come.
yeah, I don't know. Andy was keen on that too, but I think Andy's probably got plenty on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know
So,
if we have to fill up all the slots anyway.
No, we don't. Yeah, and I think the infrastructure discussion. I mean, I'd be happy to have one, but it's also, I mean, we'll have all the people there in the room, so we can do impromptu stuff anyway, and just talk to each other. We're allowed to. Anyway, so that's the plan so far. So I think, yeah, for people running those breakouts, there was a request to kind of flesh those out with a premise and some bullet points just to give people an idea what those sessions would be about. So I think feel free to supply that to me or supply it directly into the Connectathon pages. I'm going to do that for Provenance today. And and that way too, we can get comments on people wanting to add things to the discussion.
Okay, looks good. Okay, number 7, we have deferred because Marika's unavailable. So number 8, we have...
Yeah, no, number 7 isn't Marika. That's Andy and Angus potentially. That's you requesting.
Oh, yes. So this is deferred to today, or...
No, that's the status of the Jira ticket.
Yeah, that was a ballot. Yeah, we deferred it in ballot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So Andy, are we...
Open it up, have a look.
Mm-hmm.
I think I talked to this one when it originally was up for ballot. So it's a new type of identifier data type profile.
Yeah, I think this was where there's two different options for this being used, and we wanted some consistency to it. I can't remember what the second one was. One was PI.
There's medical record number, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's probably the only question is this just another medical record number or is it something different? Yeah.
And then there was an argument around that if it, should you be exposing internal identifiers anyway, as opposed to a identifier intended for external consumption, even though it is potentially used internally.
I mean, but the reality is that these are sent around now in V2 messaging.
Yes.
Yes.
So this is not a new concept.
I guess that is the question, isn't it? Do we want to do that in FHIR as part of this?
That is the question, because while we certainly have a desire to be able to carry kind of existing behaviours, we also, I think, have to be quite careful about opting then to be constrained by existing behaviours and then formalising them so they become current behaviours again. So I think that's why looking at this with kind of a fresh lens of what the intent is of this and whether there are obligations or constraints we want to place around such internal identifier proliferation. Angus is the one who kind of deals with this because he's taking requests and identifiers obviously from a variety of partners, and some of them V2 based and now some of them FHIR based, and he would, I guess, like to have a strategy rather than making it up as he goes down the FHIR path. But he's probably best to present the implications around this.
Yeah, because I think it extends out to making sure that because I know in reality these are not unique in V2 messaging at the moment because they're internal identifiers from one system and it's in the context of that particular system. And so I think if we were to do something, we want to make sure these are globally unique as well and things like that, because it's which I think is more complicated discussion and just saying let's put a type label on it and go ahead. Hey Jane, if you scroll down, I think there was a comment. Is there a comment from the e-requesting group in this ticket? No, that's all right. Because I thought they actually, maybe it's in another ticket.
It might be in the
because this was
related
referred
to.
to us. Yeah,
In this one?
yeah, that's the one. Because I think they actually voted on it in a meeting in the e-requesting group. Yeah, so there's the detail really. So that's what happens now.
Yeah.
Yes, you can even see that in the example. Like it's just an internal ID from the system, so you know which system it came from, but that's not globally unique. So if that it depends which clinic that's been sent from. You'll get repeats.
Yeah.
So it's there's things to think about because it has no organization or system namespace or anything attached to it. It hasn't got that by definition. So it's not. Yeah, it means like you couldn't use it as a global. It's good for tracking. I know why they do it. It's because they know where the message came from, so they know which system it came from. So it's got a context. Anyway, they're all things to think about. But it's landed on us to say, do we think it's a good idea? And should we have a profile?
Well, I think it probably is. But again, obviously, when that profile is created, we need to make sure that all these issues are catered for.
Yeah, or it's at least known how it works, right? Because it's just like, I could say like, if you were turning this type of message directly into like what's attached to patients in service requests, you would, if you searched by that ID, you get different patients because they'd be from different places and they would have the same ID attached. It'd just be like, here's a best practice ID, 1, 2, 3. But that'd be for one
I
clinic
guess
and
like
1, 2, 3 for another clinic. Yep.
The way we do it is so in our FHIR requests, they go from medical director through kind of a third-party smart connect, which it generates or sends through a combination of the practice ID plus the patient ID for that practice, so that when we then send them back, we can marry those up, because the actual GUIDs and the FHIR IDs that are created for the request in our HIE are not known by the, the practice management system. So we need a way to.
Yeah, and in some ways, like that depends on how you generate things too. Because if you're generating GUIDs, you're fine, right? And if you're using internal IDs that are gonna, go 1, 2, 3, you're gonna get conflicts. So it's I think that what you're doing makes sense if you qualify everything. Yeah, because and you could qualify it different ways. I mean, because you could have the source system ID as part of the value, or you could have it in the system namespace might include that context, right, to say it's for a particular site or something like that. So there's actually different ways to achieve the same thing. But it's just whether, I guess, the aim of that is to be globally unique. Do we want to say that or not as well? Or do we just say, go for it, whatever you think, and you guys sort it out when you implement it? Because there's no way to test that. It's just like, just like, what's the premise? How would you use it is probably the question. But I don't know.
Yep.
Do we need Angus? Do you think, Andy, to?
Well, they ask from the FHIR Work Group is basically to say, do we agree that the requesting group should create a profile for this?
No, they want us to create a profile.
Or
that's
they want
global.
us to.
Yeah. Because it won't just be in the context of requesting either. This will be, this could be for other purposes, including like linking back reporting. It's probably the main one that would come from the request. But also, I guess other uses, which I don't know. It's certainly something I can see some value, because as a tracking ID, it's actually very useful to have this stuff, because it lets you really identify specifically a system, a particular record in the system. And I think even My Health Record and CDA content has some of these ideas with local identifiers being part of the data. And we've talked about like HPAO scoped identifiers as another way of doing that. So you could do HPIO scoped approaches, which are things that have been talked about a bit with medical record numbers, but the same thing could apply here. I think as a profile, it's not very complicated, because it's really just saying the type will be fixed to PI. And I don't think there's much else to say other than guidance. But
Angus should be involved, because he's the one who put this together, I think.
Yeah.
But it was basically whether we follow PI or MRN as an approach.
Right. So should we defer it again then? Do we have Angus?
Yeah, he's definitely going to be down in Sydney next week, so we can corner him.
Yeah, maybe we can get a bit more specific about what we're setting out to achieve, and put some comments in.
Okay. So for the minutes then, shall we put that as an action for next week, or?
Yeah, let's talk. I don't know if Angus is going to turn up to our FHIR Work Group call, hybrid, but we can definitely talk to him during the event. And maybe that's the thing to do, is to just let's have a aim to gather information and maybe document that in the ticket.
So
Okay.
this is an action
Espe-
on Brett?
Yeah, let's do that. Action on me. And
Mhm.
I'll get some more info.
And come back
So if
to
it won't be in time for our next FHIR Work Group meeting, then it'd be the one after, which is the 9th of April.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
because it also lets me. I can talk to some other people as well. And try and see how important it is as well. Yeah. So I'll just put that in the ticket when I find out. Cool.
You know why that is a brilliant idea? It's because on the 9th of April is when we're going to talk about the next release of AU Base. So this is kind of a natural part of that conversation. That works really well.
Yeah, we're going to do it or not. Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Next item, we have number 8, which is our draft
Oh, this one.
to
Yep.
AFMM1 considerations. Is that you, Danielle?
Yeah, probably.
We just talking?
Yeah, because we'll be deferring the MBS PBS anyway, because we don't have Richard on the line, unless Stephen, you're a proxy for updating Richard's. I think Richard was still coming back to us on some MBS PBS.
I don't have the information that Richard has, so can we defer this one until Richard comes back? He should be back next week, and hopefully, if he doesn't dial into the hybrid meeting next week, then we can discuss this at the next work group meeting. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Sounds good. So yep, we'll defer that anyway. And also Marika's not here, so I think that's what we need to do. Okay, so it's the AFMM1, draft 0 to AFMM1. I'm happy to get back into that and continue our conversation. I think we got through about 50% of the structures in our last call, but it's not that burning an issue. So maybe I might double check. Is there anything that people need to talk about in this meeting, or on the agenda now? And if there is, we can give that some space rather than take up content with draft 0, which we can do kind of in any meeting. Nope. Okay, great. Let's do draft 0 content. I think I should probably share my screen for this one. Share screen. Let's bring up AU Base. So, of the decisions that got made in the last meeting, there were quite a few. And those have been incorporated into this IG. So I just wanted to go to our last one, which will be this one. So we went through and we've already kind of made decisions around, we've talked about coverage. We moved service request to AFMM1. That's already been applied. So these are in the Connectathon snapshot already. We made a decision around vaccine vial serial number. We're going to do some work on medication strength, and that's deferred. And ethnicity, we're also waiting on an update on. So they're the ones we've talked about. Now, there's some more. And if I just come back to AU Base's QA report, I'll just find the ones that say, hey, I'm in a draft state. Yeah. So we've got a profile, a health program participation. We've got a code system that's associated with that profile, and a value set associated with that profile. That is all that is left that we haven't yet talked about that is sitting in draft zero state. And we've left these ones till last because I suspect that we're actually going to say that we might need to look at removing these. So the history for this, and if you want to talk to this at any time, Stephen, you can, because this came in through the agency work that was being done for Services Australia when it was going to connect into the My Health record around reporting participation in different national cancer programs, like screening, cancer screening. I think that's still on the back burner, and to my knowledge, that hasn't gone into the My Health record. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So that was a program years ago when I was back at the agency. Oh, I think it was almost 4 years ago now. And so the agency did quite a bit of work with Services Australia and the FHIR Work Group to define how we could capture information about consumers' participation in different health programs, and worked on a terminology and added some content into SNOMED and make sure we had kind of all of these things there with workflow. And that was kind of done to tie into all the population health reporting and all that kind of content. And there's some examples for what I think this was sort of expected to do are things like, here you go, there's breast screen and saying that this person, here's what they've done. They've like deferred and their participation status period, and their reason that they deferred participating is they're traveling. So this is the kind of info that gets captured and is sent around, and it maps onto things like the AIHW captures around the minimum kind of reporting for population health around national health programs. And so it got to this state of being in AU base, but it's not, we've not actually seen it be implemented anywhere. So it's never been exercised in anger, either coming into the Services Australia content or coming out from that and into the My Health record. So that's the state of this. Are there any kind of questions about the nature of what this profile is intending to do? So I guess our question needs to be, what do we do with it? Do we want to continue to maintain this at draft zero, or do we want to retire it and from AU base because there isn't any current interest in implementing this, and then we can pick it back up again if there is interest? I guess because I don't think we can advocate this going to FMM1 at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we have any implementers pressing to implement. So I'd be happy to take it out at this stage and bring it back when there's a need.
So my question is, if we retire it, what does that do to discoverability of this retired profile?
Well, the profile only lives in CI build anyway. It's not in the actual official, because it's a draft.
Right.
So it's not published in 5.0.0. It's in the snapshots. So if anyone wants to see it, it is mentioned in the...
It's in the ballot and in the snapshot, yeah.
It's in the snapshots. So the latest version is the one that we just did for March 2025. So its latest state is preserved, that we can go and get it, and it's maintained in GitHub branches.
Okay. As long as it doesn't kind of disappeared, then, and there is some mechanism for discovering the profile, then I am not particularly edgy about it.
Yep. It's also going to be discoverable through searching through the IG registry, which maintains all the different, versions of all the different IGs, including what their profile content was. So
Okay.
it will be discoverable from that end. And we've got, with the branch policy, you can go back and find it and so we'll always, have that content available to resurrect at any time.
Okay.
Okay, before we motion, then I think I will then look at, because there's a value set whose only use is this. I believe it is this. So we created, for the purposes of this profile, a category for observation called program, and there was a code system created for it. And its only value, I'm pretty sure, is program. Let me just double check that. Here it is.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. And so I think we have to consider, do we also like remove this one? I mean, if there's no use for it, I would suggest that we need to make the decision about these artifacts together as like a block decision.
Yeah, I agree with that. And is that picked up? Because is that picked up in the value set? Yeah, yeah. So I don't know if we need.
There's
I don't know
a
if
value set created,
I don't think we need
and
that
its
then
only
either.
purpose,
Yeah.
is to
Yeah.
do that as well. So I would suggest that those three artifacts, the profile, the code system, and the value set that that only exists to say, hey, there's this code system has an extra code in it. We should choose to remove all three.
Well, we'll still need the value set, won't we? Oh,
Why? Its only
yeah,
purpose
you don't.
is
So
to, well, you
the
can't, because if we take out this code system, this value set does nothing different to the FHIR observation category codes.
yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we don't need it because there's already a FHIR one. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Cool.
So just to clarify, because I think I did explain that in a confusing manner, there's the code system, which contains only one code. And we, as a companion to the new Australian code, we created a value set whose CLD, whose logical composition is the FHIR category codes plus that one Australian code. So it does nothing more than that. If we get rid of the Australian code system, then we need to remove this value set as well. Any questions about those three structures before I guess I'll make a motion? All right. I motion that we remove the profile AU Health Program Participation Summary, the code system observation category codes AU, and the value set that is observation category codes AU extended. That's my motion.
Can I get a second now?
I can second that, Puran here.
Okay.
Like a poll, or do it the old-fashioned way?
Doesn't really matter. Do I have anyone that wants to abstain?
I will abstain. Jane, thank you.
Okay, one abstain. Thanks, Stephen. Anybody against? Okay, so we have 11 minus me minus Stephen, so 9-4.
And that's the end of our draft zeros then. We've talked about all of them.
Fabulous. Okay. So the I'll reshare, sorry. And so we are, the next one's been deferred and the next is next meeting plans. So is there anything else that needs to be discussed prior to next week?
I think the agenda's up, yeah, for the face-to-face.
Okay, do you want me to bring that one up?
Yeah. So I think it's as far as we've got PSSs and the operation. Cool. So I guess we're taking suggestions. But we only have an hour and 10 minutes. So we have a slightly shorter session for that face-to-face.
There's already oh yeah, there's a couple of things on the agenda.
Yeah.
So we've got some of the stuff deferred from today. Well, the coverage poll will be there, so I think we need to talk potentially. Oh no, that's right. You're just going to announce the coverage poll, and that'll be on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
And just to confirm, the next meeting after that's the 9th of April, because we're missing the 26th because we've got this face-to-face. Just confirm that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we need to
and
confirm that
Danielle
we're
pointed out too, the daylight savings ends before the 9th, so we will all be on the same time again come the 9th of April.
Okay.
Why don't we just leave it at that? And if people have items that they want to talk about on the day, they can add them to the agenda. Well, by emailing a co-chair or messaging a co-chair. Or commenting on the bottom of that page. I think that's the process.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Well, if there's nothing else, then we might give everyone 10 minutes back.
Just before we wrap it up, just confirming there's only one action coming out of it. Brett, you're going to gain more information around the internal identifiers.
Yep.
And I think Michael Osborne will be taking the proposal for terminology into an international call and reporting back to us.
Yeah.
Yes, but the meeting's not till the 21st of March, so it won't be next.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
Thanks, Jane.
Thanks, Jane.
Okay. Bye.